Welcome to Incentives Matter, your guide to what's new in behavioral science and behavioral economics. Let's see what's really driving decisions. We often talk about the power of nudges and behavioral interventions to improve outcomes, especially in areas like financial planning. The conventional wisdom is that if you get a couple to plan their finances together, they'll inevitably be better off. Shared goals, shared responsibility, right?
That's the prevailing assumption. Bring partners to the table, give them tools, education, and the idea is that they'll combine their efforts, optimize their household budget, save more effectively, and generally increase their collective financial security. It's an intuitive approach that's been widely adopted by financial institutions and educators.
But a recent paper suggests this isn't always the case. In fact, it can have a dark side. This couples nudge, as they call it, can actually make one partner significantly worse off financially. That's a pretty startling reversal of expectations.
It's more than startling. It challenges a fundamental premise in financial well-being programs. The research indicates that these joint interventions, rather than fostering universal improvement, can, under certain conditions, exacerbate existing financial vulnerabilities or create new ones for individual partners within the relationship. It's a classic example of an intervention with an intended positive outcome, creating a negative externality for a subset of the target group.
So, to unpack that, we're talking about situations where providing financial education or planning tools to a couple collectively somehow leads to one person in that couple having less control over their money or even less money saved than if they hadn't participated in the intervention at all.
Exactly. The core finding points to a scenario where increased transparency or joint decision-making, rather than being a tide that lifts all boats, can become a mechanism for one partner to assert greater control or even extract resources from the other. The researchers highlight that the benefits aren't equally distributed and, in some cases, can even be negative sum for an individual.
That really flips the script on typical expectations from financial literacy programs. What is the mechanism here? How does an intervention designed to help end up hurting one person within a couple?
The paper identifies a few critical pathways. One significant factor is pre-existing power imbalances within the relationship. Financial decision-making isn't always a neutral, egalitarian process. If one partner already has greater financial literacy, more income, or a more dominant personality, the joint planning environment can simply give them more tools to consolidate that power. It essentially provides a platform where the more financially astute partner can take over, marginalizing the other's involvement.
So instead of both partners learning and participating equally, one partner effectively delegates all financial responsibility to the other, perhaps unknowingly giving up their own agency.
Precisely. It becomes a form of financial outsourcing within the relationship. The less financially engaged partner might think, my partner is handling it, and they're better at this, which seems harmless on the surface. But this can lead to a decrease in their own financial literacy over time, reducing their ability to manage their own money independently. Should the relationship dissolve or should there be a disagreement, that partner is left in a much weaker position than before the intervention. The study points to a decline in individual savings and a reduction in financial knowledge for these vulnerable partners. That's a crucial distinction. It's not just about shared savings, but individual financial resilience. What are the specific outcomes the researchers observed for the negatively impacted partner? Are we talking about small dips or genuinely significant detriment? The findings are quite stark. For the vulnerable partner, the intervention often led to significantly lower individual savings balances. They might also exhibit reduced financial literacy scores when tested later, suggesting a real decline in their understanding and capacity for financial management. Furthermore, the paper hints at a diminished sense of financial autonomy. It's not just about the numbers, it's about control and knowledge. Imagine entering an intervention with some individual savings and a basic understanding, only to emerge with fewer personal assets and less confidence in managing your own financial future because your partner has effectively taken the reins.
That sounds like a situation ripe for exploitation, even if unintentional. If one partner becomes the sole financial decision maker and the other disengages, it could create a severe information asymmetry that's difficult to correct.
Indeed. The study suggests that this asymmetry isn't just passive. In some cases, the more financially dominant partner might actively or passively use the increased transparency of shared financial planning to redirect resources that might otherwise have gone into the other partner's individual accounts. It's not necessarily malicious in every instance. It could stem from a genuine belief that they are optimizing the household's finances. However, the outcome for the less dominant partner is still detrimental to their individual financial security. This becomes particularly concerning when the less dominant partner is typically women, especially in contexts where they earn less or have less experience managing finances.
So, the intervention, rather than leveling the playing field, can inadvertently give the already stronger player a clearer view of the opponent's cards, so to speak, allowing them to consolidate their advantage.
That's a fitting analogy. The cards in this case are individual savings, financial goals, and even opportunities for financial education. The research points out that for partners who are already financially vulnerable, perhaps due to lower income, fewer assets, or less financial education prior to the intervention, the negative effects are most pronounced. It highlights a critical oversight in many behavioral interventions, the assumption that individuals within a group will experience the effects uniformly, or that positive aggregate outcomes mean positive individual outcomes for everyone.
This raises questions about the design of these interventions. If the goal is to improve financial well-being for both individuals in a couple, then simply bringing them together might not be enough. It might even be counterproductive for one. What does the paper suggest in terms of redesigning these couples nudges to mitigate this backfiring effect?
The implications for policy and design are substantial. The researchers argue that interventions need to explicitly account for intra-household dynamics and potential power imbalances. One suggestion is to shift the focus from purely joint financial planning to a dual approach that also strongly emphasizes individual financial empowerment within the context of a couple. This could mean ensuring that each partner receives separate, personalized financial education, even while participating in joint sessions.
So rather than just saying, here's your joint budget template, it might be, here's your joint budget template, and separately, here's a module on how to establish and protect your individual emergency fund, accessible only by you.
Precisely. It's about building in safeguards and ensuring individual agency isn't subsumed by the collective. This could also involve structuring discussions to explicitly encourage equal participation, or even mandating individual financial goal setting and progress tracking alongside joint ones. The paper implicitly suggests that a one-size-fits-all approach to couple-centric financial interventions is deeply flawed.
That's a significant departure from the typical couple as a single economic unit model that many financial institutions implicitly or explicitly adopt. It requires a more nuanced, almost person-centered approach, even within a partnership.
It absolutely does. It compels us to consider the potential for unintended consequences not just at the aggregate level, but at the individual level within these aggregate units. The findings demonstrate that even well-intended nudges can have heterogeneous effects, and some of those effects can be genuinely harmful to the most vulnerable individuals they aim to serve. This is not just about less optimal outcomes, it's about actively diminishing financial resilience for one partner.
This research really underscores the complexity of applying behavioral science in real-world, messy human relationships. We're not just dealing with individuals making choices in a vacuum. We're dealing with interconnected agents with varying levels of power, knowledge, and goals.
That's the crux of it. The study serves as a crucial reminder that while nudges can be powerful, they operate within existing social and relational structures. Failing to account for those structures, particularly power dynamics and initial inequalities, can lead to interventions that, despite good intentions, deepen rather than alleviate disparities. It's a call for more sophisticated, context-aware design in behavioral interventions, especially those targeting sensitive areas like personal finance within relationships.
So, to summarize some of the key insights from this paper, first, the assumption that joint financial planning automatically benefits both partners equally is often flawed.
Indeed, the research shows it can, in fact, create or exacerbate financial vulnerability for one partner.
Second, the mechanism behind this backfire often involves one partner, typically the more financially dominant one, taking over financial management, leading to reduced savings and decreased financial literacy for the other.
And this isn't always malicious. It can be an unconscious division of labor that ultimately leaves one partner in a much weaker position.
Third, effective couple-based financial interventions need to be redesigned. They must move beyond simply encouraging joint planning and actively incorporate strategies for individual financial empowerment and protection for both partners.
Absolutely. The focus needs to be on building individual resilience and agency, even within a shared financial landscape, ensuring safeguards against disproportionate control.
This research makes you wonder, how often do we overlook the differential impact of behavioral interventions on individuals within a group, especially when existing power imbalances are at play? And what systemic changes might be needed in how financial institutions and educators approach couple-centric advice? That's all for this episode of Incentives Matter. Join us next time as we keep unpacking what really drives decisions. Thanks for listening.
Choose wisely, or at least know why you didn't.